You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Brett Trembly is co-founder of Get Staffed Up, the largest virtual staffing company for lawyers in the U.S. He's also been a partner at Trembly Law Firm for more than a decade. He's a lawyer, entrepreneur, an author, and a delegation expert. Hey, Brett, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Chad, I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, yeah, great to have you. Hey, as we get started here, just tell me a little bit more about Trembly Law and what you guys kind of do and specialize in.
Sure. So I started Trembly Law in 2011. We're in Miami, Florida. We do business law, business litigation, employment defense, franchise, basically whatever business owners need to protect them and either keep them out of court or put them in a good position in court if that happens.
How and when did you know you wanted to become an attorney?
Not till I was in law school, believe it or not. I knew I wanted to go to law school and get that education, but I wasn't sure going into law school that I wanted to be an attorney. And then when I was on the trial team in law school, that's when I figured out that it was something fun I wanted to do.
What about the education in law school was appealing?
Good question. I just don't think I was ready to grow up and go into the real world yet. And I wanted a bigger, fun school experience because I went to a smaller school for college. And I felt like a legal background would help me in business. And that has been very true.
So you said it was a debate club or debate competition that got you interested?
No, the trial team. It's a mock trial.
Oh, the mock trial. I'm sorry, mock trial team. What about that was appealing to you?
Well, it was mental warfare. It's preparing arguments, finding, connecting the dots in fact patterns and putting together a better story than the opposition. And I just thought it still is very fascinating, very fun, very stressful, but very fun.
So you graduated from law school. What did you do once that happened? How'd you get started in the legal industry?
I worked for a small law firm in South Miami for about 3 years, and I learned good things and a lot of things to not do, frankly. They practiced door law, so it was different every day, and it was very hard to be good at anything. But I enjoyed my time there, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I always knew that I would do my own thing, and eventually I did.
Is that when you started after those 3 years? Is that when you started your own law firm?
Exactly. That's when I started Trembly Law.
How did the early days go there?
Not great. Very, very humbling, very challenging, very stressful. I'm sure, like a lot of people, had always been a high achiever, found success in anything I had done. And I thought, well, I've always bet on myself before and it's worked out. And I hit a ceiling early on and I couldn't get past it. And it's a long story of how I got there, but through a lot of reading books and getting coaches and mentors, I found out I had a fear of failure, which goes back to your ego. That most people don't connect those two things. And I had to just get over it and start making moves. It's easy to start a law firm if you're a lawyer. You just say it one day, hey, I'm starting my law firm, and you do it. Mm-hmm. But it's more challenging to put yourself out there and try to grow your law firm. Because if people see that you're trying and then you fail, then people associate that with failure, which is silly and absurd. There's always micro failures along the way. And so hiring, taking risks, that's the real challenge of growing a business.
So you're certainly not the first attorney who's told me, like, I was an expert in the law. I'm a really good lawyer, but I started my own firm and I was surprised by, such and such difficulties. What would you say was your key to kind of overcoming the challenges that you talked about?
it's going to sound self-serving because now I have a staffing company for lawyers, but it really was hiring. I made my first hire and I doubled my law firm revenue the very next month with just one person, because it was just me, myself, and Irene, for the first few years. And then I made one hire and I doubled my revenue. And the reason that happens, Chad, is because the average solo lawyer bills about an hour and a half per day, but only collects about an hour per day in revenue. So all you have to do is double that, but you'll never double it when you're just like, you can't run faster on the hamster wheel to double your time. It doesn't work that way. You're already running at breakneck speed. So if you take things off your plate, your email, the phones, returning messages, calls, then you give yourself enough time to do more of the legal work. And early on, that's what you should be focused on, because that's the highest and best use of your time. So it's mathematically speaking, it's not hard to double your revenue when you're very small and at that size, but it only comes through hiring. And a lot of people just have such a hard time with hiring. They're such control freaks and they're afraid to turn things over, when frankly, people that are doing the 10 to 15 to $20 an hour task are going to be better than us at it anyway. But again, it comes back to the ego and just getting over that.
Would you say that the hesitancy to hire, especially for a new firm like yourself, where you were just a solo person, would you say it was mainly ego, or your desire to control things, or was it a fear of, I don't want to waste money, I want to stay lean, or what would you say is most common for most people?
It's probably an unhealthy relationship with money, right? Which means you're, I didn't have a nest egg. I didn't have family money. I was in student debt, credit card debt. I mean, not like exorbitant amounts, but I couldn't get a loan because I didn't have any assets. I was underwater as a human being. And the thought of spending money is terrifying. So I got an office and I had to cover that and some software, and that was about it. So adding an employee was such a huge expense comparatively at the time that you convince yourself, like, I can't afford it. When every second you spend doing things other than legal work, it costs you money. That's a proven fact. And you can shake your head and I can shake my head, but people still like they won't quite let those things equal. It's like two magnets, both plus, they get close and then they do this. Like I I probably logically know that it's cost me money not to hire someone, but no, not me. I do things better. I could do things faster. It's too much to train. It's too much to do this, and we just make up so many reasons. So I think hiring someone, and not most of us wait until we have this magic number, like an amount of money in the bank. Like, well, when I get to 20,000, then I could afford to hire someone. You just got to figure out how to pay them per week. And if it's, like with what I do now, because it's so inexpensive offshore compared to domestic hiring, is helping people get over that fear factor a lot more, a lot sooner.
Is the incredible increase in revenue that you saw what triggered you to get staffed up?
Partly, it was that I was my business partner found some people offshore, and I was very intrigued by the idea. My business partner now, right, also just a lawyer, a very good friend, lawyer, and I said, hey, I need someone to, in my marketing team. So he found me someone, and I just saw the potential, and years before I had laid out what I wanted in my next business, certain criteria, and I applied that to an offshore staffing company, and it met all the criteria. So I'm really the one that said, hey, we can do this, we can do it, laid out the business model that we have, and we just kept talking about it, and decided to do it together. So it was motivated by finding a solution, because identifying, hiring, maintaining, training, keeping, promoting domestic, staff members, right, is so difficult. You cannot expect people in the US to take a $10 an hour job and to be with you for years and years and years. It's not economically feasible for people. And like it once was, you once were able to find lifetime secretaries, for example. Now you can only do that if it's someone who's retired and they're bored. And so it was really like, there's this amazing solution for business owners' number one problem, because employees are our biggest assets, but also our biggest challenge and headache and liability and those kind of things. And this was like, once we started digging into it, it made so much sense to me. And so I'm glad I was right on that, because, with the proof is in the pudding with how much we've grown.
So tell me about kind of what you guys do for a typical client. Like somebody comes to you, and then what happens there?
Yeah. So unlike most staffing companies who are out of the Philippines, probably like 99%, well, we recruit out of Latin America. You have to speak amazing English, have to be educated, college degree, and willing to work, long time. These are not short-term positions. And we do full-time placement only. So law firm owner, Mary Jane, we walk her through, how we work and the positions that we help staff, which is 7 main positions, meaning executive assistant, which is the first, and I haven't mentioned my book, but I'm learning to do better at plugging myself. So I just came out with a new book called 24 Months to Freedom: How Modern Law Firms Use Smarter Staffing Solutions to Fast Track Their Way to Success. And I lay out over 24 months how you can go from really broke and miserable like I was, to not to retiring, not to, swimming in pools of money, but to a point where the business no longer owns you, and you're free to make good decisions because you have money coming in and you have help. And that always starts with the first hire that I made, and that books and books and books will tell you to make. It's an executive assistant to put a bunch of time back on your plate. You're buying your time back. And then from there, it's like a full-time receptionist, which can greatly change your business instead of the shortcut and the mistake most people use with hiring, call centers. A marketing assistant, and then an intake specialist to take you out of the consultation process. And it would be like if you call the doctor's office and the doctor answered the phone or got on the phone with you, you're like, this must not be a very busy doctor. I'm going somewhere else, right? A legal assistant, a billing assistant, because attorneys were so bad at sending bills, putting them together. Then we delay, and then we rack up and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands of dollars in AR because we feel bad, and we're always writing things off, and they're big bills. And then a legal assistant and a client concierge to really separate your firm in terms of customer service. So it's all laid out in the book. It's a proven process. And the book's doing very well and getting a lot of good feedback on it. So I'm just very excited to share the message, because we're growing, but I really wanted to share with other people, even if they don't hire us. Like I wanted to share the game plan of how you can go from where I was and just very miserable, even though I wouldn't admit it, and most people won't tell you they're miserable, to a place of real financial freedom to make really cool decisions. Like, what do I want to do with this firm, and who do I want to become?
Is it usually a process? I mean, like, could you have hired all 7 of those people when you decided to expand from just yourself, or is it usually a process like I added an executive assistant and then go from there?
That No, it's a huge process, and we lay out the 24-month roadmap because onboard 7 people at once, train them all at once. That's going to just take up all your time, and you're going to just your law firm is going to flounder, because you have to do the legal work. You have to train, allocate some time to train, and then you know then your time's freed up, and then that person keeps doing well, and you get momentum, you get more money. So now you do your next hire and you train, and then you do next hire, onboard, train, get better, and that's the smarter process. Now 24 months, I get a lot of people like, why 24 months? Well, it's not a gimmick. It's not 7-minute abs, and then we're going to come up with 6-minute abs, right? Somebody comes up with like 18 months to freedom. Well, yeah, sure. On the faster end, you can do it in 18 months, but this is real life. Real results in 2 years in the business world is nothing.
So with get staffed up, is it typically a 24 plus month relationship where you kind of take them through that process that you lay out in the book?
Yeah, yeah. Most of our clients have been with us longer than that. I mean, that's not true. We're making sales all the time for new clients, but
Mm-hmm.
what we're trying to do is get people to the point where they hire and work with their team for longer than 2 years, because turnover is tough on a business, and most people just don't hire because it's exhausting to continually rehire and retrain. So what we have at Get Staffed Up is a replacement guarantee. If you're one of our clients and our people leave for any reason and you want to replace them, we replace them for you within days.
Wow, that's great. So How did you guys kind of come up with this business plan, and how did your early days, having given you were already experienced as an entrepreneur with your own law firm, how did your early days with this compare to that?
Well, I knew a lot more this time, right? So my experience in going through the pains and the struggle, we hired early and took our own medicine. We have 180 of our own internal full-time employees that get staffed up. Um, and yeah, it's hard to compare the two, but you can't, without the law firm first, this would never have existed. And without me putting in hours and hours and hours and joining entrepreneurial groups and getting mentors and coaches and learning, it would have never happened.
Tell me more about how people can find out about Trembly Law, get staffed up, and also your book.
Absolutely. So what we did is we created a landing page for your listeners with a little offer, if you will, a promotion just for being one of your listeners. But if you go to getstaffedup.com/rise25, then that'll take you to a landing page, and it has a link for the book, and it has a little promotional offer if you do want to work with us, which we would love to work with more and more lawyers. And our business is by lawyers for lawyers. That's what we're geared towards. But both of the co-founders were both lawyers, and that's who we like working with and who we know and understand. So the principles of the book cross over into other service areas, of course. But if you're interested in the book, you can also just go to Amazon and type in 24 Months to Freedom in books, and we'll pop right up.
Last question for you. Given all that you have going on, although you probably have less going on now that you're delegating, what are a few of your daily rituals that you find most important?
My morning routine is super important, and I'm not a get up at 4 a.m. guy. That's just not, I admire the heck out of it. I really, really wish I could pop out of bed at 4 a.m. and then just get really tired at 9 p.m. and just do that every night. That would be awesome to have all of that work. I mean, writing books would be easier, because once the day starts, you've got to constantly avoid falling into the trap of just fighting fires all day. And that's what delegation's about. And that's what hiring people is all about. Because lawyers, we could spend all day on email if we're not careful and just feel tired. Like, oh, I worked really hard today. I must have done good. No, you were on the hamster wheel and you just ran a little bit faster. And so, it's important to not fall into that trap and to constantly delegate. And every quarter I do a delegation exercise where I analyze what are the new things that have crept in and what do I need to get rid of. And that's just a constant ongoing thing and it should be for lawyers, for entrepreneurs, for everybody who is in control of their time, is making sure that we are focused on being thoughtful and analyzing what else has popped up and what else do I need.
Great. Sounds great. Very good advice. Hey, Brett, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your insights and for your time, and best wishes with everything.
Chad, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, enjoyed it, and we'll do it again sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you. So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.